Hello students, this lecture we are going to continue with the chapter oscillations. So in the morning we have learned what is meaning of periodic motion, its types. We have learned what is time period, and we have learned what is frequency. Now we are going to learn to identify periodic motion by looking at its equation. Okay, we learn to identify periodic motion by looking at its equation. So in this regard, we are going to solve a question, right? Okay, that question is the example number 2 from the book. So take your textbooks out. We're going to solve example 2 from the book. Okay. So here's the question: which of the following functions of time represent periodic and non-periodic motion? Okay, so which of the following functions of time represent periodic and non-periodic motion, and give period for each case. Period, that is time period. Give the time period for each case of periodic motion. Okay, so let's begin with the first one. Now, like I said, this whole question is about analyzing or seeing the equations that we have here, right? Okay, and then we have to do some maths, and based on that, we will be able to find out whether these motions are periodic or not, or this kind of equation gives you periodic motion or not. So, for example, the first one here is sin omega t plus cos omega t. That's the first equation that we have, right? So we have to decide whether this motion or this kind of equation can it give periodic motion or not. Okay. Now you see the idea here is very simple. See, some kind of mathematical equations are such where values get repeated. Let's take an example. Suppose I would say that sine of theta. Okay, so we are going to revisit the unit circle that we have learned earlier. It's that if you think of sine 0, sine 0 is 0. Fine. That 0 angle is at this point. Hopefully you remember that we have to measure angle from the positive side. But gradually as you move towards this side here, you are going to get 90 or pi by 2. Okay, instead of writing 90 degrees, you can write pi by 2. So you are going to see that as we move on the circle, the angle keeps changing. Right? Over here it might be somewhere like 120, then 180 and so on. But do you realize that when we come back to this point, that is, we would have completed 360 degrees. But that 360 degree or 2 pi, right? 360 degree in radian is 2 pi. So that 360 degree or 2 pi, when we come back here, this sine 2 pi should be same as sine 0. Do you understand that? Reason is we are back to the same. Is that part clear? Because we have come back to the same point. Okay? So this is not the only case where the value is repeated. For example, if you go beyond 360 degree, let's say go to here, right? So that is 360 plus 90 degree. So once again, that would be 5 pi by 2. How 5 pi by 2? Well, one circle 2 pi, and then plus 90 degree, that is 5 by 2. So that would be sine 5 by 2. So sine 5 pi by 2, for that you have to look at this point. But this point would give you same value as sine 5 by 2, because that's where we were at 90 degrees. So this is like 90 degrees, or it is like 360 plus 90, that is 450. Right? So once again we see the values are going to be repeated. So this happens not just at one or two points, it's going to happen at every point. So sine is one of those kinds of mathematical expressions where the values are repeated. Okay, so you start from here 0 to 360, and then from 360 to all the way 720, all the values are going to be repeated. Then once again from 720 degrees to 1080 degrees, the values will be repeated. Well, the same thing can be said about cos, right? Just like sine 0 is 0, cos 0 is 1. Similarly, cos 2 pi, okay, cos 2 pi, let me just write it here. Cos 2 pi is also 1. Reason 2 pi, that is 360 degrees, you come back to the same point. So like this, there are a few functions or few expressions in mathematics which repeat their own values. That is what we have to look at. So if you look at sine omega t plus cos omega t, right? Okay, so if it was only sine omega t, then this term repeats itself, right? When this angle changes by how much? From 0 to 2 pi. After 2 pi it's a repeat. Okay, so it would mean that it would repeat itself in such a manner, or after this much gap, omega t equal to 2 pi. So that would mean it would repeat itself after a time t equal to 2 pi by omega. That's for this term. Now similarly for this term, same thing is going to happen. This one will also repeat itself after t equal to 2 pi by omega, because of the same logic that we have here. You complete one circle, you're coming back to the same point, whether it's sine or cos. So ultimately what this means is both of these, first term, second term, both of them repeat themselves after this much time. So we can say that overall this whole motion is periodic, because everything will repeat after what? After t equal to 2 pi by omega, right? When omega into t's value becomes 2 pi, that whole thing is going to repeat, because the angle when changes by 360, going all the way and coming back 360, right? So this means this is the time period. If it repeats after t equal to 2 pi by omega, then this is nothing but the time period. Did you understand what we have done here? If you have doubts, you can definitely ask. Okay, so do we have some doubt here? Let's see, 360 degrees repeating, so that function. Okay, yes, function is periodic, you could say that. Now let's go to the second one. See, some of the cases are simple, but others may not be. Sometimes the math itself is very demanding, right? We'll not worry too much about those kind of cases. Just give me one moment, I lost the page. Yeah. The second one is sin omega t plus cos 2 omega t plus sin 4 omega t. Okay, so that's the second. So it's a similar question to the first one, but instead of 2 terms, you have 3. Okay, here we have 3 terms. So how are we going to do? Simple, just like we did earlier. Look at this. Look at this. Again, this is the angle theta. When the angle theta changes by 360 degrees, that is 2 pi, this will repeat. So this is going to repeat when omega t changes by 2 pi. That is, this will repeat after 2 pi by omega. That's the first term. Now, look at the second one. Here, this is the angle. So that will repeat when the angle changes by 2 pi. Okay, this is clear. I'm going to pause over here. I'm going to ask you, is this clear? Why I'm writing 2 omega t is 2 pi? Why I'm not writing omega t is 2 pi? Because this all is the angle. Right? Say yes or no, then we'll proceed. Okay, so mostly it's a yes. Right? Math students are going to have a very nice day today in physics. Okay, so 2 omega t equal to 2 pi. Therefore, here we get t equal to 2 pi by 2 omega. I know 2 can be cancelled, but I don't want to do that. So what we are seeing is that first term is such that it will repeat itself after t equal to 2 pi by omega. Second term is such that it will repeat itself after 2 pi by 2 omega. Right? Similarly, let's look at the third one. So without much ado, I can just write it like this. Okay, I don't think anyone has any problem with that. Okay, so t is equal to 2 pi by 4 omega is the time after which the third term will repeat itself. Now we have some task at hand. It's that these are repeating themselves after different times, right? They are not repeating at the same time, just like it was in the first question. So what are we supposed to do here? Let's take an example. Okay, suppose you would start from here. Let's say, okay, I'll give myself a little bit of space. So let's say you would start from here and you would walk on a circle, right? And let's say on this path, or let's call this person A. First person A here took a time of, let's say, 8 minutes as time period. That is going there on the circle and coming back. Time period 8 minutes for the first person, that is A. But there is another person who starts from the same point, okay, and goes around. But this second person B, instead of taking 8 minutes, takes half the time to go around in the circle. Okay. Why am I using half? Have a look here. Compare these two, please. Here we don't have 2, here we have 2. So the second one is half, right? Because there is a 2 extra 2 in the denominator. Let's go to the third one. Suppose there is a third person. Again, C. Okay, a lot of crowd here. Starting from the same point. Okay, and going around like this one thing. But suppose this person takes 2 minutes to go around. So that person is running fast. Well, so do you realize that all these 3 will come back once again at this point, that is whatever is the initial position of the whole thing, that will repeat itself after only 8 minutes, not after 4 minutes and not after 2 minutes. I am saying the complete position of A, B, C, everyone together will repeat only after 8 minutes. Is that clear? It will not repeat before 8 minutes, it will only repeat at 8 minutes, because A will come back here at 8 minutes. At that time B would have finished 2 circles and come here and C would have finished 4 and come here. Clear? 8 minutes. So that means this is also periodic, right? The complete positioning of A, B and C is periodic. But what is its time period? Is the complete thing having a time period 2 minutes? No, because at 2 minutes A will not repeat position. Is it 4 minutes? No, not 4 also, because there also A will not finish the circle. A will be here at 4 minutes. So the only possible answer is that the time period is 8 minutes, because after 8 minutes everyone will come back to this point. Okay, so have a look here. Same thing, this is like TA, then that is 8, this is half 4, and that is even half again, so that is 2 minutes. So what will be the common time period where everything is repeated? The answer will be 2 pi by omega. Is that clear? This is periodic motion and the time period is 2 pi by omega. Understood this one? Why not other two? Because they are like this. They are half of this, half of this. Right? Everything clear here? Okay, we have had a question about why we are taking 2 pi only, why not 3 pi? Okay, or why not only pi, or why not anything else? Reason is simple. A complete circle in angle is completed at 360 degrees, isn't it? Okay, one complete rotation around is 360 degrees, and 360 degrees in radian is 2 pi radian, isn't it? 180 degrees is pi radian and 360 degrees is 2 pi. So everything gets repeated after 360 degrees, not after any other angle. Okay, that's all. Right. So that's how, by looking at equations, you learn to identify whether it is periodic or not. Okay. Now third one. Often, just by looking at it, we can decide. So third question is e raised to minus omega t. Okay. E stands for that number, which is 2.71 and so on. Okay. It could be any number. For example, it might be 2 raised to minus omega t. Then also the answer will not change. So here, do you see any kind of mathematical expression that is repeating? This is a power. Powers don't repeat after a fixed interval. What I mean to say is, if you start increasing power of 2, let's say from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and so on, you are not going to get repeated values at a fixed interval, right? So this is definitely a non-repeating or non-periodic expression or function. Did you understand this? Because we don't get repeated values. Okay? Second number is periodic, Gracie. Why second number non-periodic? I explained that it is periodic. Okay. Now the last one. It is with logarithm. Okay, same problem here. Log omega t. Okay, log is once again not something that would repeat itself. Okay, so because again log doesn't repeat itself, we can just say non-periodic, right? There is no detail required. Okay, like I said again, sine, cos, these are the ones that you are going to see most often for periodic motion, or these are the expressions that are some of the simplest ones that repeat. Okay, fine. Now let's go over to the next thing. So now we are going to describe oscillatory motion, and then we are going to talk about some important characteristics or properties or behaviors of things in oscillatory motion. Let's begin. We will first of all consider the simplest oscillatory motion, that is in a straight line. Let's say that there is some particle here, right, and it is oscillating back and forth between these 2 points. Okay, so I am going to say that this is E and E dash. What do I mean? I am saying that this particle is going to oscillate between this and this and this and this. Okay, did you understand what I am saying? So why am I calling it E and E dash? You could call E dash here and E over there, okay, it doesn't really matter, right? These are just names. So E actually for end points or extremities, or extreme position or extremities. There are so many words for it, you can use either one. So E for extreme or end. Clear why I have chosen that symbol? Right? Between these two, there will be one point here. Between these two, there will be one point here, right? Which would be the midpoint of both of these. We can call that mean position. What do we call it? Mean position. Mean means average at the center. Okay, mean position. Right? Okay. Then there are some very simple things to understand. It's that at E or E dash, direction of motion is reversed. Did you understand this sentence? That is, at the end point, the direction of motion is reversed. What does that mean? Let's say there is a particle going from here. When it reaches E, before that it was moving towards right side. But after reaching E, it should move towards left side. Did you understand? The direction is reversed. Similarly, when it goes here, it's going towards left side. After reaching E dash, it should reverse its direction. Got it? Okay. Now, let's talk about another important aspect of all this, and that is direction of force. Direction of force. You see, generally when things are normal or simple situations where collisions and anything like that is not involved, right? What happens is that a force opposite in direction to displacement from mean position has tendency to cause oscillatory motion. Okay, that might sound like a weird sentence, but listen to this carefully. Let me point it out here, you'll understand. We take mean position as our origin. Okay, so we will calculate all displacements from mean position. Okay, so now at some point, let's say the particle is here. Okay, so what we have written here is that a force opposite in direction to displacement. So here the displacement of the point P from mean position is the right side. Did you understand? Okay, then if there is a force that is opposite to that, if there is a force that is opposite to that, then this can cause oscillatory motion. In fact, this is required. If there is no such force, think about it. Suppose there is no such opposite force. Let's say. So it is moving in this direction. It will keep moving. Why will it come back? Do you understand what I am saying? If it's over here and it's moving in right hand direction, it will just keep moving. How will it come back? To come back, its velocity has to be reversed. You understand what I am saying? The velocity's direction has to be reversed. And what can change velocity? Come on, basics. What can change velocity? What changes velocity? Very good. Force changes velocity. That's right. So, if the velocity at this point is towards the right side, then there has to be some force in the opposite direction which will gradually reduce the velocity and bring it back. Did you understand why an opposite force to displacement is necessary if it wants to come back? Clear? Okay, just like that, when it would go on this side, let's say now it's going in this direction. Okay, so there also, if it will continue its motion in this direction, it will go away, it will not come back. So there has to be some opposite force, right? So that's what this sentence is telling you, that for oscillatory motion, you need to have some force which is opposite to the displacement. And it's completely clear to you? If there is no such force, there will not be oscillatory motion, right? The particle will just keep on going and going and going and going further. It will never come back. Okay. Right. Fine. I'm erasing this. Okay. Right. But yes, we have some important lessons that we have learned in this little topic. Okay. Now, let us talk about the main thing in this chapter. And that main thing is simple harmonic motion. Okay, for short SHM, right? Simple harmonic motion, SHM. So first thing to understand is that simple harmonic motion is a very clearly defined motion. That is, there are some rules that have to be followed if the motion is to be simple harmonic, right? That is, simple harmonic motion has some very strict conditions. Okay, often we see that these kind of conditions cannot be verified or cannot be exactly followed in real life. But yes, there are still some situations where the motion is almost like this. Okay, almost, not 100%, but still fairly close. Okay, so what are those conditions and why it's given this kind of name and all that we'll talk about. Okay, so let's start. First of all, we need to understand that simple harmonic motion is an oscillatory motion. Okay, it is which kind of motion? It is an oscillatory motion. That is, something will go back and forth. Right? Something will go back and forth. That's oscillatory motion. So simple harmonic motion is an oscillatory motion. Of which kind? With this special condition. With the net force acting on the particle proportional to displacement of particle from mean position, of course, from mean position, right? An oscillatory motion with some special condition. What's that special condition? Net force on the particle proportional to the displacement of the particle, right? But in the opposite direction of displacement. But in the opposite direction of displacement. Right? So this is what makes simple harmonic motion. This definition should be exactly followed. If some kind of motion follows this definition properly, we call it simple harmonic motion. Okay. So let's write it in words, in equation form as well. It's that, suppose from mean position, which we call origin, O. Okay, suppose from mean position, some particle is here, let's say, so this is its displacement. Did you understand? From mean position, and you know displacement is a vector, right hand side. Then the total force acting on it, you could say external force also, no problem, total external force should be proportional to the displacement. Should be proportional to the displacement, but in opposite direction. But yes, like I said, generally we are going to be talking about motion in one line. So just like we used to do it earlier, when we are only talking about one line, it's okay even if you don't write the vector. Okay, whether you want or you don't, no problem. Okay, you could put it either. Is this clear to you? What I have written here, is this clear based on this definition? So for example here, the displacement is towards the right side. The displacement here is towards right side, from O to P. Right? Displacement is measured from what? From mean position. Then the force on it has to be towards left side, total force. Is that okay? The total force on it has to be towards the left side. Okay, not only that, it has to be proportional to displacement. Right? It has to be proportional to displacement. So this condition, whenever it is satisfied, whenever this condition is satisfied, we will find that the particle is doing simple harmonic motion. Absolutely clear? Is there any other way to identify simple harmonic motion? There is one way, but it is almost like this. Right? Okay, so that's what we are going to cover. right? That's what we'll talk. What's the slightly different way? Suppose you write sigma f external as mass into acceleration by using Newton's second law. Then do you realize that here also we can write that because mass is constant, okay, so what this means is that acceleration of particle, so I can write that in SHM, acceleration of particle is proportional to displacement okay, but in opposite direction to it. Okay, so these are the two ways anyone, okay, these are like iCards, I always tell everyone. Okay, sometimes it's possible that you are at your home doing some physics problems, there is a knocking on the door. Person will say, I am from so and so department. You say, show the iCard. Just like that, whenever some kind of motion knocks at your mental doors and asks you, what kind of motion? Is it SHM? iCard nikalo, iCard, right? That's what you should ask. So if you can show this iCard, then it means the motion is SHM. Otherwise, the motion is not SHM. Is it completely clear? It is ID. Okay? Okay. Suppose someone knocks at your door, right? And says, Election Commission, ECP. Okay, I am from ECP. What is ECP? Right? Are you going to make voter ID list? No, this is fake. Right? This is from Election Commission of Pakistan. Ended up at wrong place. This is just like saying that sometimes you might get acceleration proportional to is this SHM? What do you think? Is this SHM? Is it real one or is it a fake one? Is this SHM? Watch it carefully. Don't get fooled. This is not SHM. Problem is the square, right? This says that it should be proportional to the displacement, not to the square. So that's the difference. Did you understand? Okay. Right? So now remember this. Whenever someone says, is it SHM or not SHM, just look for this. If you can get this, yes, SHM. Okay, anyone? Right. Now, there are a few more things that we need to talk about here. Right? Okay. So let's say some particle is doing SHM. Okay, for SHM or in case of SHM, sigma f external, because it is opposite to displacement, okay, is called restoring force. Okay, and sometimes we like to write it as FR or FRES. Okay, restoring force. What does that mean? Let's say that this is mean position. Okay, this is the mean position here, and some particle is over here right now. These are the end points. Then, if this particle is here, means its displacement is towards the right side. So the force acting, total force acting on it will be towards the left side. So what is this total force doing? This total force is trying to pull this back towards mean position. Restore. Restore means to go back, isn't it? You understand what I am saying? Restoring or restore means to go back. So this total force, what it's trying to do is it's trying to pull it back towards mean position. Just like that, after some time, let's say that this particle comes over here on this side of it. Then the total external force will change direction and it will be in this direction. Did you understand? Once again, it's trying to bring it back. Back to where? Back to mean position. આમ જાય તો આમ, ઓલી બાજુ જાય તો પાછું. Got it? Okay. So it's called restoring force also. Right? Now let's attack that proportionality. So we have that in SHM we are seeing that sigma F external is proportional to minus delta x. So if we remove proportionality, obviously we should get a constant. Yes or no? So that constant, we are going to write it here. The constant. That constant is K. K is not spring constant. Okay, please be careful. When we write this kind of equation where this is restoring force, when this is restoring force. Okay, so this K is called force constant. Okay, what is it called? Force constant. Sometimes you will find that it is same as spring constant, but in some other cases it's not. So don't call it spring constant because it's not spring constant every time. It is force constant. But hopefully everyone is realizing that this equation is just like spring force, isn't it? Do you see that this is just like spring force or Hooke's law? Yes or no? Do you remember that? I said that if we remove proportionality sign, we get a constant here. So K is that constant, okay, by removing the proportionality. But that K is not spring constant, remember. Okay? It's force constant. And sometimes, in some situations when there is some spring, okay, and some easy cases, it will be equal to spring constant, but not generally. So don't call it spring constant. Call it force constant. Okay, so that's what we get as the equation of restoring force. Now, the next thing that we'd like to do here is think of two important terms. Okay, what happens at mean position? Okay, what happens at mean position? That's what we are going to discuss. So let's draw a diagram once again. So here is mean position M. This is one extreme point. This is the other extreme point. Let's say the particle reaches here at mean position. Then how much is the displacement when the particle is at mean position? How much is the displacement? Where do we measure displacement from? From mean position. Don't forget. So how much is the displacement? 0. Very good. Okay? Right? When the particle reaches at the mean position, right at the center, the displacement is 0 from the mean position. So how much do you think is the net force, or how much is the restoring force in that situation when the particle is at mean position? Come on. How much is this total force when the particle is here? Okay, very good. 0. When on some object total force is 0, what do we call that situation, or what do we call that condition? When on some object total force is 0, what do we call that condition? Total external force 0. What is the technical name for this equation? Yes, very good. So many of you are giving right answer. Equilibrium. Well done. So it means that at mean position the particle is in equilibrium. Okay? Right? Not only that, you can of course also say that acceleration is 0. So let's just write it. Okay, let's summarize about mean position. So at mean position, following things happen. Number 1, total force is 0. Right? Number 2, acceleration is also 0. Acceleration is also 0. And we have another name for mean position. What's that? Mean position is also called equilibrium position. Mean position is also called equilibrium position. Did you understand all the three? Okay, fine. So we are going to stop here now, right? Next time we will understand what happens at the extreme position. Okay? So goodbye till then. Yeah.